Okay, we're live. Welcome to How to Build Your Own Home every Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We do live chat. We take questions, give you some feedback. I want to start off with kind of talking a little bit about attitude going into owner-builder status. And a lot of people have always imagined wanting to build their own home. It's kind of a dream. It's not really a pipe dream. It's just really a hope that because they see it's the only way they can get into a home, the cost savings alone make it affordable for them. But a lot of people want to do it because they want control over the situation. They want control over the process, the costs, the invoicing, the bidding, estimating, selections, whole 9 yards. And if you give yourself any kind of study or even walk through on construction jobs, let's say you have a home show a lot of places in states, especially areas where there's a lot of growth, you go through what's called a home show. And you experiment by studying how other people build homes. And if you've been looking for a home to buy or whatnot, you go into a home, and after a period of time, it takes maybe 10, 15, 20 homes to walk through. Once you start walking through them enough and you start studying technology, studying efficiency, studying a higher quality build, you start saying to yourself, I want to build my own home. I don't want to buy that. And granted, the construction has come a long way, but there are places in this country, like I've seen in Texas, where they get away with absolute murder by building the most inefficient, paper-thin home you can ever imagine. And so this is what really inspires people who want to be owner builders, is they say, I can't see any of the quality that's out there, so I'm going to go and build my own home. It's kind of like a Caesar salad. My wife knows me and my family that every time I go to a restaurant, I typically order a Caesar salad. And if I feel like I want to splurge, I'll put shrimp or chicken with it. And that's what I typically eat. I'm more of a salad guy. But very rarely have I tasted a Caesar salad which was authentic. And I grew up, making authentic Caesar salad with anchovies, raw egg, mustard, garlic, you name it, the whole works. And it's an authentic Caesar salad. And I've made it really, really good. And I haven't made it as good at times, but I get better and better as the years progress. And it's the same thing with building a home. You get better at it over time, but just by studying alone and seeing what's on the market and seeing what a builder grade home is or what a developer home is like, you typically say to yourself, God, can I do better than that? And you obviously can, and it's not that hard. I'm in a home right now that survived a major fire over the summer. All the homes built that were around me burnt down. All 12 homes around me burnt down. I'm sitting right between two cul-de-sacs. So my house is right between two cul-de-sacs, and all 12 homes burnt down, plus homes across the street. And so as I was building this, I said, I can do better. I can preserve this home. I can protect this home, and I can do it right. And that's the driving force for being an owner builder. Not only saving on the general contractor fee, not even saving on the developer fee or even the realtor fee. In some situations, if you're to buy a home from a developer, you're going to pay a realtor fee on top of all that. All that savings can go wrapped into the higher quality of a home. So what I wanted to communicate with you is, if you see that and that's your driving force, the next thing that people see is they get a little afraid, and that fear kind of wraps them up and ties them up into a ball, and they don't know where to move. Well, that's why How to Build Your Own Home was created. The courses I offer at howtobuldyourownhome.com, there's a first steps course. It's kind of a 5,000 level foot approach on the whole thing. And it's a great course, very affordable. It gets you really where you need to be to say, I got to launch. Now I need to go for the full course that's going to give me a budget, draw sheets, checklists, subcontractor agreements, the whole 9 yards, video instructions, stuff like that. So that's why I'm here, and that's why I do this weekly live chat to answer questions from people, help resolve their fear, help them understand the process and how they can kind of overcome all that. So I may just touch base with this again, but let's go ahead and take some questions here that are coming up, and hopefully I can let me turn my sound down just a little bit because my phone chimes and then it chimes on my desktop and it was going off left and right. So let's take some questions real quick from Craig Lofgren. I'm prepping a house pad to build an omniblock home. How flat level does it have to be? 1/4 to 1/2 inch variance. What is the maximum acceptable amount? That's acceptable right there. The pad is going to be fine. They're going to dig a trench, or you're going to form a footing. And I'd recommend you form your footing because you want as level of a ground as you possibly can before you start putting the omniblock on there. And the other thing to consider is, are you going to pour concrete on the inside, or is that going to be stick built? If it's a slab on grade and then you do your omniblock, you can pour your concrete after you get your first row or two of omniblock on there. But observe and watch and take precautions on watching the mason install that block. Don't assume anything. Make sure that they're putting the insulation in at the right time. Make sure that the rebar is coming up out of the foundation. Make sure that you got horizontal rebar and that they're pouring their concrete at every 3 to 4 foot lifts, not at the 10-foot lift. You don't want to be doing omniblock and they just pour all their concrete late at the 10-foot mark. You don't want that. You want them to do it at the proper heights and have them stop, get the bond beam in properly for the doors, windows, etc., and then continue on forward. So I've seen some people not observe and watch and supervise the process properly. And if you need any consulting on omniblock, you're welcome to reach out to me. I've done that several times for students and really helped them out and get them pointed in the right direction. Good question. Let's see. How do you work when a banker says you have a builder? You have to have a builder. That's a really good question. In times of higher liquidity, when banks are more lender happy, they can actually soften that. But when lending becomes constricted and there's less liquidity in the market, they start imposing things on you, saying they need a builder. Well, the best way around that, hopefully, it works in some situations. It doesn't work in all situations. Is that you go to How to Build Your Own Home, and you take the course, and in the download section of the self-managed course, there's a letter, and you can take that letter to the bank. I mean, literally, you can take it to the bank. And I've had some success with some students that the letter describes the organization, describes what they're going through, the courses, the preparation. And I've had banks say, this is great. They're going to be better on top of it than anything else. And you take that to the bank and say, hey, here's what I'm doing. I'm taking a course on this. It's a well-known course. A lot of thousands of students throughout the country have taken this course and had a lot of success with it. And when they start seeing the budget and they start seeing the draw sheets and how organized you are, the thing that I really would press toward the bank is you say, here's the value of the home when I'm going to be done. Here's the equity that I'm going to have in the home because I'm not going to have a realtor or a GC contractor fee. So therefore, I'm going to be able to put more value into the home or not have to take out excessive amount and therefore have equity in the home. It's a plus. It's a win-win if it's done right and you're prepared and you're organized. And so just give them that emphasis and take that letter to the bank in the download section. And I've had success from students who've been able to use that letter and say, hey, it was that letter that helped me get a loan. So I can't guarantee it's going to work all the time, but it doesn't hurt to try. Okay, good question. LC199L1C, I can't read that very well. Considering a raised elevated slab for the foundation of our home, worried about a high water table, 3 feet, and potential flooding in extreme storms. Do you have any experience with this? If so, tips. Yeah, it's a really good question. Make sure that you have enough drainage away from the home, maybe and raise it with the last 12 inches with a city spec road base, maybe even having some gravel that compacts very well below all that, so you have some proper drainage away from the home. Ideally, at the very least, you want to be about a foot above the crest of the street or adjacent street to your front entry of your home. So if you're at least a foot above the crest of the street, that's typically a safe spot. But if you're in high water tables, 3 feet, push it up to 3 feet over the crest of the street. It'll give you a greater grade from the home. And so if water does come, it should be able to drain away or stay out of the home. Keep in mind, like in Florida and Louisiana and stuff, places like that, when they have a hurricane, sometimes it can come up to 6 or 9 feet. Sometimes, in a lot of situations, the further inland you are, it's barely 6 inches to a foot, maybe a foot and a half, where it can come up to the home. But it depends on where you are, how close you are to the coast, and where the drainage is and how high you are. Always get a lot as high as you possibly can in those locations, and that's going to help you quite a bit. But yeah, good question. Emily Bleed. Again, I always said that right. Emily Bled. For a well pump, installer offers pressure tank either buried or in mechanical. Any reason to bury? I'm leaning towards not burying. Don't bury it. Okay. Sometimes those have a diaphragm inside them that don't last very long. The pressure tank is designed to, let's say, for example, that my father put in pressure tanks on his facility a long time ago. And when the pressure would be sustained we were about maybe a few feet below the spring. The spring was across the gully, and you could see it. The pressure wasn't that great. So it was only headwater pressure. It wasn't a lot of high elevation pressure because the tank went up several feet and we only got the pressure from the tank. But other than that, our elevation was very close to the bottom of the tank. So when the water came in, it would push against this diaphragm, and the diaphragm would expand and then pressurize the system, but not go back out into the water source. What that does is when you draw the water down, it's kind of like what's that? It's a xylophone, or that instrument where people, they pump air into it and air in, air out, that kind of thing. Well, that diaphragm gets pressured against, and so when you draw water from it, it has a sustaining force for a little bit of extra time in case there's a drawdown and there's not enough pressure from the main source. That's really what you need. So the well pump is typically designed for that. The well pump pushes the water up, creates an additional 20 or 30 gallons of water, and then it can actually use that for additional pressure in the system. So don't bury it. It can rust. It's not going to be a good system to do. And ask the pump in the plumber what size diaphragm, what size tank you'd want for that. But they're very, very helpful. And let's say, for example, power goes off, but you've got that tank and it's got an additional certain amount of water in it, plus the water in your heating tank and all that. It's now a stored up system or stored up amount of water in the case that the power goes off and it can't pump water out. So there's a lot of benefits to it. Research it and find out what good size tank might be the best for you, but put it in a mechanical room. Don't put it underground. Good question. I am planning to add attached garage to the house located in the South Carolina coast. Thinking to build garage hurricane proof. Any suggestions on construction methods, solid concrete or just reinforced framing? That's a really good question. I don't know how close you are. You're on the coast. Yeah, the Carolinas can get beaten up pretty bad. If you can afford it, I'd go full concrete on that sucker. It wouldn't be a bad thing, even omniblock or even a masonry block, because you don't need the full insulation on there. And you can take a CMU block and you can fill it with concrete and rebar, and nothing's going to take that down. And you can also strap down the roof a lot better. When it comes to stick build, it's harder to strap that roof down. Imagine a roof truss landing, okay, on the top of a top plate. and all you have is the screw going up to hold it down. Well, if you have a CMU block wall or an Omni block wall or something like that, that top plate has got J bolts inside it, and it's got concrete and rebar in it. So when you're going to mount something down, you can literally mount it down really tight. You can hold those rooftop trusses down much better. So you may lose a couple of shingles or something unless you do some aluminum shingles, which is 140 miles an hour sustained gust. Again, it's holding that roof down. And if you have a wall system that's not going to go anywhere, the next step is holding that roof down. But yeah, do it. Get back with us and see how you do on that. But some sort of rigid where you're taking rebar into the footing and you're running it all the way up into the wall system, that might even be good too. I've seen some people take rebar and go right up the side in the footing, and they go right up the side of a stick built, and even something like that every once in a while helps hold that house down. A lot of extra hurricane straps. I don't know if you know what a hurricane strap is, but a whole seismic strap goes into the footing like that, and when they frame the house, it gets bent up, and they stick a bunch of nails in there to help hold the home into the foundation. You could even do additionals of those, and you put 3 or 4 studs right there. So when you slap it against the sheeting, if you put all these nails in there, it's going to help hold the home down. So overkill on those might even be something to consider. Okay, good question. Okay, EM, hello. You always mention about getting all organic matter removed from your build site. Boy, I haven't mentioned that in a long time. You must have been listening for a long time now. Do you hire a separate company to remove all of the tree roots? Seems fairly impossible, thanks. It's not too impossible. It depends upon the organic matter you're dealing with. Like, for example, a poplar or an aspen tree is a very shallow root system. They grow fast through the looser soil, which is higher up. They don't dig down with a taproot. If it's an oak tree or some other tree that's a hardwood that has a taproot that goes down deep and it has that strength, the muscular structure in the root system to go down deep and tap into the water source, those are the harder ones to get at. So I don't know what kind of organic matter you have on there. Brush doesn't get down too deep. A hemp, if it's like a hemp product, which is like that, has an ability to get down there really, really deep. And like alfalfa, believe it or not, has a root system that can go down 3 feet. So if you're digging up any field that was once alfalfa roots are very, very deep. Talking with a horticulturalist or something like that locally would really, really help. But the rule of thumb is nothing bigger than your pinky. And if it's excessive amounts of organic matter that's around the size of the pinky, you still want to get out of that and recompact it. When they do the test pit, I've done a lot of test pits in my life, and the geotech will look at the capillaries where the root structure once was, and it's like an open straw. And so if you have root structures that die and they decay, they leave that open structure inside the soil. If you look at farmers, they will raise what's called straw, and they'll have a season of straw. They'll clip it, but they won't till the ground because the straw now is an open air body, and so rain and moisture can get down into that straw all the way into the moisture, all the way inside this root system, and replenish the system. And they just use that open capillary structure. A lot of root structures are like that. If they decay, they leave that open body down below, kind of like an ant colony. If you were to kill the ant colony and put molten aluminum in there, it would fill up all that colony, and you could actually dig it up and see the actual structure of their colony. It's the same thing with geotech. And so when they go to the site, they'll dig down, they'll see how much organic matter is deep underneath. If you were to go into some mountain communities and dig up 2-3 feet after hundreds of years of pine needles falling down, you're going to find nothing but organic matter for just several feet. So I don't know what you're digging up or what kind of organic matter you have there, but it depends. Like it depends. The geotech report is going to tell you. It's going to tell you how much you need to over-X and if you can recompact with existing soils, and if you can't recompact with existing soils, and it will tell you how much you need to grub off. It will say 3 inches, 6 inches. It could say more. Again, when that test pit is done, they go down 8, 10, 12 feet, and they see the strata, and they do proctor tests of the soil at various depths. When you get that full report, it will tell you. It will give you a detailed narrative as to what to do. Okay, good question. You can see why I don't build without a geotech report. A lot of people do, and I don't do it without one. Hey, Keith, a while back you said you were looking into buying windows, cabinets, etc. from China. Alibaba, how did that work out? I have investigated it. I have a student who did do it, and I've done some reporting on him. In the recent video that came out, I think it was this past one, right, honey? It was the one before, a video that came out where we talked about windows, and he actually traveled to China, got the windows. They were flangeless, and the windows had to be installed after the fact, but he was successful, and he was able to get some windows at a much better price. But he had to travel there, and this was before all the tariffs. So I don't know what it's like now. But that took a little bit of forethought and a little bit of extra capital just to go over and travel and find some of the resources he was looking for. But I wouldn't search too far for the cheapest deal you can get. You want to get high quality, but at a better price. And that's what he was going after. And so you can do it. I just don't know what it's like with the tariffs now. Get back with me if you find out the source. That video goes out on Tuesday coming up. Okay, yeah, it goes out on Tuesday. Yeah. Brady Morgan. Hey, Peyton, good question. I installed windows from China on my current A-frame build to have about 10K on the cost, not Alibaba. They are actually quite heavy duty. I was impressed, but some cons. Have you installed? Yeah, that's a good thank you. I appreciate that comment. Go look on Alibaba and look at the referrals. Look at what's that? Don't do Alibaba, but it takes a lot of time to research that stuff. Alibaba is like a really, really cheap Amazon, to be honest with you. It's their equivalent of Amazon over there, but you really don't know what you're getting into. You have to dig deep on researching that stuff. And there's some good manufacturers over there, but you have to filter down and find who they are. So, okay. Have you installed a culvert? Yes, I have. Do I need engineer plan and sign off to install a culvert? I'm looking at a property where a small wash needs to be crossed to get to the building site. Is the wash on your property? If it is on your property, you should be okay. But check with the county. If this is in the county, more than likely it is in the county. Counties have what's called a culvert specification. In my county, it's called a culvert letter. The culvert letter defines where the culvert should go, approximately how big the culvert should be. And it's mainly to keep drainage away from the street, away from the home, to go down its natural creek system that they've built. But check with your local county, and they will have a simple sheet, more than likely, a specification on that. But don't get a culvert that has ribs in it. Get a culvert that's a complete smooth surface, and it can have ribs on the outside. They make new PVC culverts that are 9-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch, 18-inch. I put in 24-inch culverts before. And they have ribs on the outside for strength, and the earth can fit around, but inside it's smooth. The trick to a culvert is when you install it, you have to compact it, and that culvert has to fit flat right on the bottom of where you trench. If you trench it down like this and it's got a concave to it, and you start burying it, you're going to have a puddle inside the middle of your culvert forever. A great place for bugs and mosquitoes and all kinds of stuff. You want that water to come in and through and out. That's the best thing to do for a culvert. And then, but talk with your county and find out what size culvert they recommend. and what any specifications they require to backfill against it, like road base or something like that, gravel or what have you. And that should be clear. If it's strictly on your property and not a transition from public to private, if it's way on your property, you're more than likely can just do it on your own. But I just want to make sure that it's not off your property, or it's the transition from public to private. And if that's the case and there's an easement there that it has to be shared, that's where you need to talk with your local building office, and they should help you out. Okay, good question. Notice this is from Brady Morgan. Notice you don't talk building code often. How important is it to be familiar with the building code? For builders and owner builders, simply rely on subs and inspectors to make sure it's built right. You know, I'm a kind of guy that I build to the best engineering that I can. And then if I run into a code, I run into a code and I make the adjustment. But you can easily go into a building office and say, can I talk to a building inspector and say, hey, can you give me some pointers? Can you give me some things I should watch out for that are issues in our area? And they'd be more than happy to sit and talk with you right there in the city or county office. Just get informed. They may even have a printout of a couple of things that they watch out for. So just going in and talking with them wouldn't be a hard thing. And then asking them, can you give me a list of the inspections that are typical or required in your office? And they would do that. A lot of building offices are online. I can go online right now and I can actually see the inspections required for every build I do. And I'm building in 4 different jurisdictions right now. So I have to be privy to all of them, but it's not a headache. It's not as scary as it needs to be. The more you go in there and talk with them, the more they're going to be able to help you out rather than feel like you're going at it blind. Okay, good question. Brady again, as a builder and inspector myself, I struggle to trust others. I have seen how often they get it wrong, whether by ignorance or negligence. It's both. It's by ignorance, which is a lack of knowledge, and negligence, which is just laziness. And there's a lot of that everywhere. And so that's why people want to be owner builders, to take control of that. Okay. Happy Interstate. Who should I contact about a future project using OmniBlock here in the Georgia, Carolina area? I would contact Denny. He's got a list of sources. And if you can't find anyone through his sources, then look for masons and go to block masonry yards where they manufacture the product, and ask if they have a structural mason who can put together an OmniBlock. The key is structural mason, not just your rock or block wall mason, a person who can do a bond beam. That's the real difference between a regular mason and a structural mason. If you've looked at like high schools, a lot of high schools are made and built out of a CMU block wall. And so if you go over doors and windows, that's a rebar and concrete over the top of that window. That's called a bond beam, with or without a lintel. A lintel could be a metal piece of metal stuck in there for additional support. If you find such a person who's a structural mason, who knows how to deal with that, then that's really the headache. And if you do find someone, great, and then move forward with it. But look around. Go to masonry yards and see if you can't get some names from people that they can bid this out for you. Okay. Michael, for easy flow septic install, does the septic field need to be completely devoid of trees? I've been told this only applies to hydrophilic trees. It depends. Check with your health department that will typically issue the septic permit. And they will say that the leach field has to be a certain distance away from any tree. I've dealt with this a lot. I've battled with health departments. Some trees are just notorious. Poplars, cottonwoods, aspen, they are notorious for getting inside septic systems and destroying them. But like I deal with cedar trees, they're drought tolerant. When you take them up out of the ground, they come up very easy. They don't root forever all over the place. And so they don't work their way into a septic system. But again, completely devoid of trees, you need to just figure out what kind of trees are there, and talking with the health department and asking them, and they should give you some feedback. Granted that these health departments are not horticulturalists, they're not botanists. They don't understand trees very well, and you may have to educate them on that. And if they do have a better understanding of trees, then you're in better straits. But I've run into health department people who don't know anything about trees, and so it's been a battle. So be prepared for that. Okay. Species of spaces. That's a cool name. Euro windows are becoming more popular here in the U.S. as well, and dealers are now in the U.S. We just installed some on our project. Yes, they are. There are just dozens of windows, European windows, and there are some American manufacturers that are coming up to speed, especially with triple pane windows. Like I said, Windows is so varied. I see so many different kinds of windows out there. It would boggle your mind. So, but sometimes you pay for what you get, and sometimes you pay for something you get a lot more. Sometimes you don't get a lot more. That's something you have to really research. I've tried to do posts and videos on Windows, but it's so hard because you go to any box store right now, and you have about 7 to 9 different selections of windows, manufacturers. And so you have to know, for example, I bought some windows, and I'll sell the manufacturer right now. It was Jeld-Wen, okay, a big brand name. And they took forever to get to a job site. Although the price was great, manufacturer's pretty good, they have a third party, and that third party controls all their delivery. And they would say when they would get there, and then they would change their mind, and they would delay it a whole nother week and a whole nother week. And it was a nightmare. And then I was told, don't buy this. We hate to say that about a product, but a lot of products are tied into third-party distribution companies and how they deliver their product. And they're in bed with a bad situation. And hopefully they're going to change that. But yeah, what's that? Okay, and then that's just be aware of that. Ask around, and to be honest with you, the more you talk and network and talk, you'll get some feedback from people, and that feedback is going to be invaluable on what you should buy. Okay, good question. I could talk forever about Windows. Okay, Brady, Dorwin Group is who I ordered through pre-tariffs. Good comment. Okay, we are in Western Washington, elevated lots, supposed to get snow this month. Is it a good idea to break ground, or would you wait for spring? We plan to do the groundwork now and pause until spring. You can do the groundwork now. Here's the benefit of that is you do the groundwork and hopefully do some compaction. Then you'll get the additional settling during the winter. Trying to do that groundwork in mud in the spring, that's a nightmare. You can do it with some frozen ground now. If you dig down 2-3 feet, you're below the frost depth anyway. Hurry and get that done. Get all your grubbing done. Get your pad as best as you possibly can ready. Get it compacted. And then you can have it recompacted or tested in the spring. There's nothing wrong with that. Just keep in mind that if it freezes, okay, you can't pour concrete on it. You have to keep that ground warm. So if you go the distance with the foundation, the dirt underneath that foundation cannot be frozen. It's got to be thawed out. So just keep that in mind, okay? Next question, Douglas Brockbank, 3130. Is there a software you recommend for designing a home? Ideally, it could generate an AutoCAD compatible file to send to the draftsman. I've seen one called Rayon being promoted. Thanks. Yeah, there's a lot of them out there, but I would go with the platform that can give you window callouts, dimensions for callouts, and it might even give you a cut list for lumber. A lot of these technologies are coming a long way, and the more it can give you to help simplify the entire build process, the better off. But if you just want to design it so you can hand it off to a draftsperson to take it the full distance, great. That's awesome too. Something to tweak and have fun with. There's a lot of programs out there. I haven't recommended any. because I don't have the time for design. I just work directly with architects and draftspeople. They send something to me, I write up on it with PDF edit, and then I send it back. And to me, that's been the most efficient for me, is getting somebody on board right away, rather than me trying to spend too much time learning a whole technology. So, good question. Prime time Peyton. One more, Keith. How hard is the GC license test? I've heard not too bad, and others say it's practically impossible. I don't think it's practically impossible. In my state, there's like 80 questions out of a 400 selection. So I studied the 400 and got pretty good at it, and then I took the test and I passed it. But I'm a terrible student, to be honest with you. I was a C- student in high school, barely got through my junior college years, graduated with a bachelor's degree, barely. I'm not that great. I'm not smart, but don't get intimidated by those tests. There's going to be typically two tests, one for the legal side of liability and insurance and your responsibilities as a builder. And then the other side of the test is for the field specific stuff, things you should know as a general contractor. But keep in mind, the role is general contractor. You are engaging in contract. That's your key. That's what you really need to understand you're doing. You're not just out there on the job site, you're engaging in contract. But yeah, every state is different, but check out your state, see and investigate it. And best of luck. Good question. Spazog. I hope I said that right. Can an owner builder get through permits a state but may require because you're building within open water lake? Some states look like a lot of work. Can an owner builder go back to that? Close to okay. Can an owner builder get through permits a state may require because you're building within open water? Close to. Okay. Some states look like a lot of work. It depends on the state. Some states are really, really difficult because they don't want any waste or anything draining back into that open water area. You can get through the permit. It's just a matter of logging online, talking with the people in the permitting office and getting some feedback. If you get blocked and you can't figure something out, go into them, say, hey, I've got this on the line. I'm trying to figure out how to apply for this. What do I do? And I'm a face-to-face person. The more I can go into the city permitting office or the county permitting office, the better off I am. And I can just figure things out that way. And it just may take a couple of visits, but don't get intimidated. You can go through it. You can figure it out. Okay. Okay. Happy Interstate. I'm planning to do a plan designed by Dan Tyree, and it is a castle-inspired design, and there's a 3-story tower. I know basic CMU can be used, but it would require an exterior cladding. Yes, it would. I was thinking of using OmniBlock that is a split face which would not require an exterior cladding. You would do a stucco or some other grout application to it. Otherwise, you're going to see the exposed OmniBlock. But that's an easy application with additional glue that you put inside the grout. It bonds pretty well. Or you just brush the glue on the OmniBlock and then you apply the grout. But that's not a bad thing to consider. So good thought. Or easy flow septic system. Does the septic field need to be completely devoid of trees? Oh, we did this one already. Been told this only applies to hydro. We already did that one. Did you answer that one? We already did that one. Oh, sorry. Hi, is adding an external kitchen to an ADU expensive? What happens to original footings to where a kitchen is being extended? How does a roof extended look like? Thanks. Adding an external kitchen, or are you just adding a kitchen to the ADU? If it's an accessory dwelling unit and you're adding a kitchen to that, or an external kitchen, I don't know if that kitchen is inside or just outside that building. So I don't know, but it shouldn't be too hard. If it's part of the foundation of the building, then you're just going to have a whole new footing, and you're going to pour your concrete in either stick built or slab on grade or whatever it may be, and moving it on from there. The hard part is your plumbing. If you're in a very high cold environment, you're going to have a frost depth, and you're going to have 30 plus inches of frost depth before you even that's already down into the ground. And then you're going to do an extension beyond that for a kitchen. You're going to have to dig underneath all that, tap into the sewer system inside that home, and bring it out to that kitchen. Sewer is the nightmare. Sewer is the thing that makes something, yeah, I can do this, or no, I can't afford that. That's your deciding factor. It's much easier to do an extension that's like a room or a library or an open living space or something like that. The minute you start doing bathrooms and kitchens and extending beyond the footprint, that gets to be a headache. However, if you're in Florida or Texas, where you all maybe just have a 10-inch frost depth, your footing's not that deep down, then you can get underneath there and maybe move a few things. So just keep that in mind. It's how difficult it is to get access to sewer and whether or not it drains properly. That's your big ticket. Okay. If it's simple, great. If it's not simple, you might want to rethink that. Okay. Okay, Brady, box store windows are crap. I have installed some in garage and cheap renovations. They fall after a couple of years. My go-to the budget windows is Anderson 100 series. You can get Anderson 100 series windows at box stores. People just don't know that. All right. And believe it or not, you can get a discount if you go to box stores and ask for the Anderson 100 series windows. You can get them at box stores, but just a lot of people just don't go that route. Oh, yeah, good question. Good comment. I like a design in SketchUp because of how simple it is. My engineer can create plans from images of SketchUp models with dimension called out. Yeah, they can. Okay, Happy Interstate. The GC test is fairly easy here in Georgia, but the insurance and line of credit requirements is the rough part. Plus, here you need examples of past work. Typically 2 years. Sometimes when I first got my license, I had to have 4 years of experience. But yeah, it's not that difficult. And the line of credit, meaning in my state, I can't have any foreclosures. I can't have any bankruptcies or anything like that. I have something like that on my record, I lose my license. All right. So in my state, it's highly regulated on the insurance and liability and credit worthiness side of things. That's, again, engaging in contract, proving that you pay your bills, proving that you don't have bad credit. That's where it's all at as a GC. Managing those things is invaluable, doing it right. Okay. Michael, I would keep your septic field tree free because here in the Southwest, tree roots can play havoc in drainage fields. I would suggest, I can't hear you, honey. I can't hear you at all. I would suggest flower garden or shallow rooted ornamental. Yeah, that's a good comment. Sandbar, what books should I read to learn about things like business strategy, finance, and land development? Really, really, really good question. When it comes to finance, I would probably Kawasaki's book. He talks about Rich Man, Poor Man, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and he talks about the cash flow quadrant. That's a really good book. And as far as business strategy, I would get involved with some business networks, talking with people, lots and lots of people. And the more you talk with people, the more you're going to get, the more voices you hear, the more you settle down on, okay, this is a good standard. This is a good practice. And land development, same thing. You're just talking with people. And the more you talk with people, the better off you are. But keep in mind, some people are not going to be free with their information. And so if you have something valuable to offer in your networking, then they might be able to share something with you. But learning and talking, hanging out with county planning commissioners planning commissioners and stuff like that, city council, they could really help you out. Talking with city people and county people, you can learn a lot from these people because they see stuff come through all the time. Stuff that doesn't get approved, stuff that does get approved, and they can walk you through that easily. And it's all about finding a piece of land, what you can do to improve it, and then going to that planning commission or the staff and asking them for some advice. And they're gonna be more than happy to help you out. Okay. And if they don't, I'll go talk with them. I'll say, hey, you gotta help these people out. Okay. Again, when it comes to this entire process, it's really about fear. And the best thing to deal with fear is information. The more information you have, the less fear you're going to deal with. And how do you get information? You hunt and peck and search and research, and you ask people questions and you write down stuff. For example, one thing I would recommend to a lot of people here is getting a booklet like this, maybe some line paper, put it in a spiral bound or something like that, and start having to-do lists or questions you have. When I was working in the nonprofit sector and I was doing, 30 homes at a time, I would, at the end of the day, I'd write down all the things I need to do on this notepad, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I would drop it and let it sit, and I wouldn't have to go home and think and dwell upon what I have to do the next day. The best thing to do is to write down all the things you need to do, set it down, and then drop it mentally. Just don't even come to it or think about it at all, because your brain needs rest. It needs to be chilled out for just a little bit. Come home, have dinner with the family, all that kind of stuff. Then when you wake up in the morning, guess what? You've got a task list of things to do ready to jump on. All right. And then you start checking off all the things you need to research, all the things that you need to accomplish. And then if you don't finish something and you don't get it done on that checklist for the next day, guess what? You now have 5 or 6 things that you can transpose into a new list at the end of that day for the next day. Keeping yourself writing down notes and writing down things that you need to do is very, very beneficial, especially with owner builders, because you're going to forget. Now, the checklists that I've created in the system at howtobuildyourownhome.com help you with that. So when you're going through the framing stage, you download and print all the framing checklists. When you're going through the plumbing, the electrical, foundation, the excavation, you name it. When you're going through all those processes, you download that checklist, and then you can, as you go through the process of building, yeah, I checked that. Yeah, I checked that. I checked that. Good, good, good. You're good to go. So it's a system that doesn't tax your brain so much, and it puts your brain into a creative mode and not a worry wart mode where you're constantly thinking, oh, did I not do that? Did I? Well, if you have a checklist in front of you, you can say, yeah, I did that. Yeah, I did that. We're good to go. All right. So that's the benefit of dealing with fear, is having as much information in front of you as you possibly can. That's how you deal with fear. And fear can wrap you up into a tight ball, and you won't be able to move at all. And you don't need that. You need to eliminate ignorance, and you need to eliminate laziness. And the laziness is removed when you take responsibility and learn. And the ignorance is removed when you learn that information that helps you resolve that fear. So that's why How to Build Your Own Homes here is to eliminate both of those. And they're very, very, it's an invaluable course. So make sure you go to howtobuildyourownhome.com. Any other questions do we have? Okay. Well, we're gonna end that tonight. I got a raspy voice. I'm trying to get over a flu, and it's getting kind of raw there. But we'll be back. We won't be back next week. We've got things planned, but we will be back the first of the year, which I believe is January 8th, if I'm correct. My wife will correct me if I'm wrong, but we'll be back up with, what's that?
Yeah, January 8th.
So we'll start back up on January 8th.
Because it's Christmas. Yeah,
So we'll have some time with family and all that kind of stuff. So my wife says hello.
Sorry, we're both sick, so yeah. I've been trying to hide.
That's okay. She's not feeling well either. So we'll be back here January 8th. So hold your questions. And if you can't be at the live chat, make sure you email the questions through Contact the Instructor at How to Build Your Own Home, and we'll be able to answer those questions for you. It's going to be a very interesting year next year. I'm going to get ready to do a market update on where things are looking and how things are looking and all that kind of stuff. I'm excited about to do that report. We'll be doing it next week, and we'll come out probably just before Christmas. So anyway, we'll see you guys then. You guys take care, and we'll be back January 8th. See you guys then.